Even when I try to go, no, this is not the time. She's like, that's what I'm talking is my own. No, it's like, yes, I've heard you people. It's like, people should talk. Kuwenu, it's your own. When it's time for me to do my own, this is what I want in this house. And so I can only imagine it. Yeah. That's a lot to go through. But now you spoke about your child. Let's go back there. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. So
19?
People have accused me of talking about my daughter or rather bringing my daughter in every situation that I can. And I'm like, see, you have no clue. That girl, oh my goodness. Do you know what it is to be 19 and pregnant? I was having a conversation with someone, and the person, when I said ask the person, I was like, do you know what it means to be 19? And the person was like, what do you mean? You were having sex, so what did you expect was going to happen? I'm like, did not have to say that now, but it's okay. At the same time, do you still know what it means to be 19 and pregnant? So a lot happened. I was my final year in university when that happened. I was dating this guy, and I mean, we're so head over heels in love. And one thing led to another, and I got pregnant. And
is it one thing led to another? Like one thing just led to another. Oh, you people went to do the do.
So you know the funny thing, right?
Yeah.
You would have expected that. I mean, I was not a baby in quotes. I mean, my education went by really fast. I got in university at 15, and so it was very quick. So at 19, I was already in my final year. I was doing so well and all. But I'm an intelligent girl.
Okay.
You know? But yeah, so that happened, and for whatever reason, I knew, I had that conviction in my heart that I said, Chinelo, this one, you can't do anything to it. You just have to. And we had confirmation. You see when people say this thing of, oh, there was confirmation. I never believed it until that. We had confirmation from different sources. And I'm beginning to see it now. From different sources saying, you can't do anything to this baby. You're going to keep this. It's going to be hard. I remember the doctor we went to. I'm not even going to mince words here. Doctor. And he said to me, look, you're going to suffer for the next 5 years because there's going to be so much pressure. But guess what? When this child is 10, you're going to look at yourself again and say, pat yourself on the back and say, well done, because she's going to make you so proud. At the time, it did not make sense because that's not what I wanted to hear. Yeah. So I was looking at him like, Of course, the first thing that came out, my father. Hey. I'll go to my father that what? But you know, I'm glad, I must say. And I came into this realization last year when she turned 10. Because I actually sat back and I thought about several things. And I'm like, if this did not happen, I don't know what would have happened in my life. But you see, it actually changed the entire trajectory of my life. Because to start with, so we used to live, my parents still live on the mainland. So I used to live on the mainland with my parents. But then after I got pregnant, I left the house. And so my father didn't speak to me for 4 years? So remember I said I was in my final year. So I had her, I had to write my final exams about 2 weeks after I put to bed. I just had to, because I was like, whatever it is, I must graduate. I'm not going to have an extra year. I must graduate. So I was bent on that. And thank God, that happened. I defended my project and everything went well and I graduated. So I went for my youth service the next year. And that was where I met my friend, a friend of mine. In camp. She was an international student, Lisi Pagi. And I must say that was divine orchestration because that was literally when my life changed. I was very depressed. I had postpartum depression because I couldn't be with family. I couldn't be with people that meant something. People that I could hold my hands and say, okay, you know what, it's going to be fine. It was literally just my mom. And even my mom couldn't come to see me because my father would never hear that she came to see me or had anything to even do with myself or the baby or anything like that. So I was by myself with, my daughter's paternal grandmother, of course, and a few of their family members, but it still didn't feel like home, right?
Family.
So it was me going through so much depression at the time. So NYC camp was a very good escape for me. So that 3 weeks, when people say they did not enjoy camp, I enjoyed it because it was like, it was vacation for me, And that's where I met her. And she saw me one day. What's wrong with you? Why are you always quiet? You're so pretty. What's wrong? And she introduced me to this other friend. And that was how we all just became friends. And we used to go to Mami Market together and all of that. And so when it was time to go back home, of course, I couldn't go home to my father's house. So I was in my uncle's house. Unfortunately, my uncle was going to move to Gombe at the time. So his house was empty. It was just a rug and a pillow and I think a duvet or something that he had in the house in Okpebi. And I used to avoid my friend coming into the house because I served in Okpebi Grammar School. I taught in Okpebi Grammar School. It was very close to the house. But for sometimes when we go for CDS, she'll pick me, drive me back, drop me off. I want to come in. I'm like, no, you cannot come in. And she doesn't understand why. Until one day she's like, no, Chinelo, I'm coming in. And then she's like, what? You mean this is where you live? And I'm like, yes. And she's like, nah, you're moving out of this place. And that was it. She lives on she still lives on the island. And she introduced me to her mom and her dad. And these people literally carried my matter on their head like I was their child. And honestly, that was how my life changed. Because then got a job on the island. I lived with them for, I think, 4 years before I moved out. So, they gave me that.
The family that you needed.
Exactly. And then that block. Oh, I must say that they also took it upon themselves to speak to my dad and make sure that we reconciled. And actually, that was how myself and my dad started talking again after 4 years. So you can imagine all of that, right? But it just it made me become more independent. Because I feel like if all of this thing happened to me, I would probably still be that daddy's girl that's just waiting. Okay, daddy, I want to go do my master's now. And then he says, okay, you know what? Fly here, go there, do this, do that. But I'm sure sometimes, my father doesn't say it to him, but I'm sure he looks at me sometimes and he's like, you're one strong girl, right? I didn't know the strength that was lying in me until I had to go through it. It wasn't easy, I must say. It was very, very difficult because this is me not having anybody to collect money from, having to survive on the salary that I had. I mean, food was there, accommodation was there because I was living with those people, right? But I feel like if all of those things did not happen to me, my life wouldn't be.
You wouldn't be the woman you are right now.
Exactly. So yeah, all of my life stories tie up into this beautiful human being sitting in front of you today.
I feel like my mouths are open because wow. It's like you've told a journey of the last 5-10 years of your life that must have been so much hard work. You said it in such a way that it looks so beautiful and it's like, oh my God, it's like, I'm sure it was really hard because you're smiling.
My dear, I'm smiling right now, but there were days when there's still times now when in my closet, I still cry and I remember everything. I'm just like, but you know what? I have just come to a place of gratitude and peace with myself. And I'm like, Chinelo, this thing that you did. And I'm very grateful for my support system. So my friends, so there's Dami, there's Miriam, there's Amoloing. These people have held me. These are people that have been by my side through it all and said to me, you know what? Whatever it is, you're not giving up. You are going to keep going. And they say something to me and I sit back. I remember my birthday last year. So I had a couple of my friends. I was doing, I'm now 29. So let's now do the final 20s party. So we had the final 20s. It was a big thing. It was a 3-day event.
Oh, shit. You know how to enjoy life.
Oh, yes, I do. So I had them, and I had them talk about certain things about myself. You know when people are talking about you and you look back and you're like,
is that me?
Is it me? You are saying all those things. And I knew that my friends are very, very, they are brutally honest people. If you mess up, they will tell you that you messed up. At the same time, if you do good, oh my God, they will sing your praises to the end of the earth. So that's how they are. So when I heard them say certain things about me and talk about my strength, I talk about how, and then even my daughter would look at me because right now she's a very smart girl, so she sort of understands some of the stories and whatnot. And my daughter says to me every time, "Mommy, you are such a strong woman," and I'm like, Chinelo,
I don't think you understand that, but I'm sure she's watching you and knowing that, damn, my mom is strong.
Yeah. So, well, I'm grateful for it all in all of this. You said I'd sound like it's a beautiful story. Yes, I mean, God gave me beauty for my ashes.
Word.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. You know, hearing you talk reminds me personally of my mom gave birth to me pretty early. When we're together, people are like, is she your mom? Oh. Yeah, I think that's what will happen with you and your daughter eventually.
She's like, wearing my clothes now, you know.
You see what I'm talking about?
I'm like, will you get out of my wardrobe? She's like, but this top of it will not fit, sis. Bye.
That's the same thing with my mom. And when she buys clothes, I try it first. If it doesn't size, if it's not my size, like, okay, take it. If I buy and it doesn't size, I take it. But and when she talked about her journey too, I can so much relate, and I can only wonder what's going through your daughter's head. Because in my head, I'm like, I must not fail this woman. She went through a lot.
Yeah.
You know, my name is Fortune. One of the beautiful reasons why my name is Fortune was like, you're fortunate to be alive. You're that child that, by all means, she wasn't ready to have me. It was like something led to another, but she decided, she took it upon herself. And so you're now at that page where it's like, when you look back, like, my mommy is going to kill me. I can't do this. You know, you don't want to let her down. And I think it's something beautiful to have, really. And well done. Well done. So let's talk about how that has impacted your relationships though. I mean, having a child at that age, going through all of that. Do you tell men that you meet? You reminds me of the movie I watched. Did you watch this movie? Here Lies Love on Netflix. That lady had a child and she was going through all of that. You watched it, yeah? Yes. She's like, how do you deal with that?
So in the beginning, right, I used to shy away from having that conversation. Even, I mean, just generally. So even with female friends. And that's because I felt like it was a stigma to talk about how I had a child out of wedlock. And then also because I was also in the church community. So it wasn't particularly encouraged to speak about it a lot. But then at some point, I'm like, for how long am I going to hide this? And I used to have this colleague who had a son at the time. And her son didn't know she was his mother, right?
Wow.
And I didn't understand that. Because I'd ask her, I'm like, you breastfed this child. How is it? So how do you feel knowing that your son will grow up tomorrow